And now to Sarah Palin and the Tea Party. Pat Buchanan's an MSNBC political analyst, and Joan Walsh is editor of Salon. Here's Sarah Palin, by the way, Monday on CNN. Let's listen.
What if the Tea Party movement winds up splitting the Republican Party in two? Who will you stand with?
You know, I don't think that it will, because I think more of the machine within the GOP is going to understand that this we the people message is rising and is resonating throughout with independents, with hardcore conservatives, with moderates, because it's just so full of common sense and time-tested truths that can put the economy on the right track, that heaven forbid that the GOP machine strays from this message. If so, GOP is through.
Wow, let's take a look at some more of this with Pat Buchanan and Joan Walsh. Pat, I heard today Doug Schoen, a big-time pollster in this city up here in New York, thinks that Sarah Palin is running for president. Your thoughts?
I think she may be, Chris. I don't know if she's made up her mind yet. We've got a little feedback here. I don't know if she's made up her mind she's running for president, but if she got into the Iowa caucuses, I think she'd run extremely strong, and she could also win South Carolina. But I have to say, Chris, a year ago she was at that Lakeside press conference. Looked to me like she was almost gone for good. People called her a quitter. And now she is probably the single most influential figure in American politics in terms of endorsing candidates in primaries and caucuses. And she is a potential presidential front-runner for the Republican Party.
Joan, I want you to watch her here in Reno, Nevada, and tell me what you think. This is a serious push. Last 2 weeks to go. It starts tonight. 2 weeks now to the election day. It looks like she's really jumping in this with both feet and really going to try to win with a bunch of Tea Party leaders in the Senate race and claim big-time victory election night and then go on to announce at the end of the year. It could be the plan. Here's Sarah Palin in Reno. Let's listen.
You've been ridiculed, you've been mocked, you've been slandered by the left. Still, though, you didn't let big government-loving professional politicians and the complicit left-wing lamestream media tell you to sit down and shut up instead. No, you didn't retreat, you reloaded, you came out even stronger, and you've turned this country around.
Wow, Joan Walsh, she's talking to us, I think, although nobody in the world I know has told her to sit down. We like her standing up.
Yeah,
stand
right
even
up,
higher, Governor. Your thoughts, Joan?
Well, look, of course she's trying to do that, but in fact we may find at the end of the cycle, Chris, that she's hurt the party. You know, Sharon Angle, Harry Reid was dead until he got the gift that keeps on giving, Sharon Angle. I know you watched that tape where she tells those poor students that they're Latino but they look kind of Asian and that she's been mistaken for Asian. She sounds preposterous. She doesn't understand.
Let's be fair here. I have watched that tape. I've tried to understand what she meant. She's making obviously a visual ethnic observation. Did she think that some of the people in that group were from the Philippines? Let's take a look at this. Pat, I want your comment as to be fair. Let's figure out what she's talking about here when she said when she looked at a group largely of Latino kids and said some of you kids look Asian. I don't know what it meant. Let's listen.
I don't know that all of you are Latino. Some of you look a little more Asian to me. I don't know that. My grandchildren are evidence of that. I'm evidence of that. I've been called the first Asian legislator in our Nevada State Assembly.
I'm really trying to be fair here and trying to figure what we've got. Somebody calling the campaign again, trying to figure this out, what she meant. Do you know, Joan, what she meant by that?
You know, I think she meant that she is completely bewildered by modern, multi-ethnic America, Chris. I think she thinks that that's a completely acceptable thing to say, to treat these students like she doesn't really know what they are. And, you know, as far as I know, no one in Nevada politics can think of an example of a time when she was actually called Asian. So that seems to be either a misremembering or a lie. But she seems so out of her element in terms of dealing with people who are not white people, and that's really trouble given the future of our society.
Well,
Those are our children.
Correct. Joan is correct to this extent. She is not politically correct at all. She is clearly trying to establish a sense of community with these kids. Hi, you kids are Hispanics. I see some of you kids may well be Asian. Chris, in our generation, that would be a very nice thing to try to do. It is not politically correct, but the piling on of this woman for a statement like that, with this, which I think is inoffensive and harmless, it may be antiquated, is just the appalling elitism that you see coming through this media.
I'm not doing it. Let me go back. Let's put this in context, both of you, Joan and Pat. The reason she got into this conversation about ethnic look, which is always very tricky to get into, especially, well, any time it is, people are offended by it many times, is because she ran an ad that clearly identified Hispanics as border crossers, illegal border crossers,
clearly.
because the ad had Hispanics picked up in one of these casting calls or stock footage out in this case. And then she tried to deny that they were all Hispanic. She said, no, they're all just people crossing the Mexican border. Well, I don't know what that meant, except
Some of
that
them Canadian.
She was trying to avoid admitting that she was making an ethnic slur. Pat, that's where it came from. That's why she's saying to these kids, I don't know if you're all Hispanic.
And that's why
but
it's
look,
so
Chris,
disingenuous,
the questions to me, Joan. Look.
Sure, sorry, Pat.
The people coming across the border are Mexicans by and large. Some of them are Guatemalans. Some come from other places. What would be wrong with portraying them as Mexicans coming across the border if that's what they are? That's where the mistake is. She should have said, look, I didn't have anything to do with the ad. It does look like they're Mexican folks. Most of the illegals are Mexican. But however, we got a tremendous number of Mexican Americans here who are legal.
Well, let's take a look at some of these Tea Party people that may be a problem for the Tea Party. I think the energy of the Tea Party is unexceptional. They have created the Republican Party. I'll say it 100 times. It wasn't John Boehner, boring John Boehner, or crusty Mitch McConnell that excited the Republican base. It's these guys. Look at them. But these problems are right here. Sharon Angle, can she win? Christine O'Donnell, probably not. Joe Miller, probably. Ken Buck, probably. Pat, Joan here. I think most of these Tea Party people are going to win. That's what I think. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if Sharon Angle will win. Sharon Angle can still lose. Ken Buck can still lose. We know that Christine O'Donnell will lose. I mean,
but they could almost all win.
We'll see. We've still got 2 weeks. If they keep opening their mouths, look, Joe Miller. Watch. I know you're going to show this later, but watch Joe Miller's thugs handcuff a reporter who is just
could have been
doing
you,
his job.
Joan.
Excuse me.
Could have been me.
It could have been.
Chris, you know, you said, Chris, your hero Jack Kennedy once said, sometimes party loyalty asks too much. I'm a conservative. We came into politics with a guy who was certainly going to lose, Barry Goldwater. We nominated guys who might have lost, like Nixon. Reagan could have lost. He won. You know, George W. and Cheney won. When we nominate moderates and folks, excuse me, that Chris Matthews may like, Ford and Bush won, and McCain and Dole, we lose. We want to win with our own people. I don't understand politics that people say, well, let's go with Arlen Specter because he's a sure winner, when Arlen disagrees with me 50% of the time.
Well, here's Christine O'Donnell, one of your favorites, who is possibly going to lose with Chris Coons in that Delaware Senate race. She's the genuine article, by the way, Pat. She's what you've been looking for all these years. She's the real thing. Let's listen.
Well, oh, yeah.
Where in the Constitution is separation of church and state?
The First Amendment establishes the separation, the fact that the federal government shall not establish any religion, and decisional law by the Supreme Court over many, many decades.
The First Amendment does? Let me just clarify.
Please.
You're telling me that the separation of church and state is found in the First Amendment.
Government shall make no establishment of religion.
That's in the First Amendment.
Pat, I was surprised she wasn't familiar with the Establishment Clause.
But there isn't, or the Establishment Clause, I agree with you, but the separation of church and state is in a letter by Jefferson. It is not in the Constitution
of the United States. Pat, we could play the tape 40 times, but the fact that she was responding to Chris Coons saying the Establishment Clause, and she said, that's in the Constitution?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, you're right. You're dead right. I don't defend that at all, Chris. But as for the Tea Party, you're dead right. Our party was completely moribund. They were, you know, it was do not resuscitate in January of 2009. And why is it alive and going to win 40 or 50 or 35 or 60 seats? Primarily because of the energy and fire and passion of these people who care about the kind of people in politics and their convictions, not just winning with an R past your name.
Let's take a look at a new ad, John. I want you to respond to this. A conservative group is taking out an ad in Spanish out in Nevada urging Latinas not to vote. Here's part of the English language version of that ad. Let's listen.
This November, we need to send a message to all politicians. If they didn't keep their promise on immigration reform, then they can't count on our vote. Democratic leaders must pay for their broken promises and betrayals. If we just go on supporting them again this November, they will keep playing games with our future and taking our vote for granted. Don't vote this November. This is the only way to send them a clear message.
Voter suppression. There it is. You've seen it right there on the eve of the campaign. Joan Walsh.
It's an old GOP tradition to try to, convince minorities not to vote, tell them where the polling place is, and tell them the wrong election day. Pat did a good job trying to split the white working class from the Democratic Party, and here you've got Republicans who are terribly scared, frankly, that this enormous constituency is growing up Democratic, using these same old tricks to tell them that they shouldn't vote.
This is broad daylight. Pat, this isn't saying there's federal marshals down at the polling place today. This isn't scaring away people who might get picked up for some traffic violation. This is saying it on television.
It takes all kinds.
Also, Chris, it is also saying something that a lot of Hispanic leaders are saying themselves. Why should we go out and vote, when they delivered nothing of what they promised? I agree with you.
Wait a minute. Who stopped immigration reform? Was it the Republicans or the Democrats?
Well, no, Barack Obama, and they didn't even bring it up.
Because Lindsey Graham backed off, and Republicans made it clear it was DOA, like so many other things.
Why did you guys not at least get a vote on it?
Because
who are Pat, before you go through complete, what do you call them? I don't know what, flip-flops. Do you really can name one Republican who supports immigration reform the way the Hispanic groups want it?
No, I don't.
Okay, well then what are you talking about?
Republicans don't.
Okay, then why do you blame the Democrats for not doing what that Ed said they didn't do?
I blame the Democrats for not fighting when they got both houses with veto-proof majorities.
Okay. They don't have veto-proof majorities. They don't have filibuster-proof majorities.
There's not a single one of you guys that want what Obama wants. That's why I didn't get it.
But
it
why
does
didn't
take two
Obama
parties.
go for a vote?
Because he would have spent political capital unwisely. Because you guys would have blocked him. He spent plenty of political capital. He showed plenty of leadership.
Okay,
that was a dead issue.
Hey, Pat, I think you won on Christine O'Donnell. Just kidding. No, I think Pat's right. I think the Tea Party has energized the Republican Party like they've never been energized, even going back as far back as the pitchforks, Pat. You'd have to go back that far.
Well, the thing was that our people broke off from the Republican Party. These guys are giving the Republican Party a great boost and a chance, just like Sarah Palin said. And the Republicans, Chris, butter deliver.